Nice enough to fill us in. He covers the New York Knicks for Newsday and on his way to Atlanta to continue to cover them. That's our friend Steve Popper. How are you, my man?
Good. One down, 81 to go. I'm not sure what you guys said about it, but I think it's almost encouraging. I know Thibodeau doesn't like to talk moral victories, but to do some things as badly as they did yesterday, the shooting, the free throw shooting, you just don't have games like that where Brunson, Randall, or just can't hit anything, and so many layups missed, so many free throws, and to still be leading in the final minute and a half and barely lose to what I think is the best team in the league this year. I think that's something that you kind of take a positive out of, that you didn't fall apart there, that you didn't kind of, cave when things were going bad. Look, it's opening night. I don't think we're going to see many more of those in the next 81.
Well, I'll tell you what, that was a great way to start. And I do think about moral victories. And, Dan and I think, agree that the Boston Celtics are the top team, at least in the East.
Yeah.
And when you look at the way the team responded, because you said it, Brunson and Randall did not have good games, and that left it to the rest of them. Josh Hart hit some big shots. Obviously, Barrett hit some big shots. It was the kind of game and the way that they played. It was a difficult game to find a lot of faults other than not being able to make some easy shots.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. Thibodeau talked after about some things have to be cleaned up, defensive rotations, just too many times, Kristaps Porzingis had room out there on the perimeter, and you just can't do that. But they're a very tough team to defend. I don't think anything I saw yesterday kind of changed my mind about our preseason prediction that they were going to be the champs this year.
Yeah.
They're just so dangerous. You get guys like Porzingis, and you just can't focus on them because you've got to double Tatum at times, and Brown is dangerous. They're just, they gave away some depth. I think that's going to be an issue for them if there's any problems with injuries. But, they are about 7 deep, very, very good. And that starting five is just, it's pick your poison, all over the court with them.
On that note of preseason predictions, knowing where you kind of rank the Celtics among the hierarchy in the league, where did you finish based on this roster on what you thought the Knicks would be capable of, and did seeing them on the court in a regular season game change that in any way after game one?
Well, what we saw last night and what we saw in the preseason might make you put them at the bottom, but I picked them fourth, and I think in that range of 3 to about 5 or 6, you can kind of shuffle it and argue anywhere there that I think they could finish third. Ahead of Cleveland. I had Cleveland third. I think they're going to be better than Philadelphia because Philadelphia is just a mess right now with the Harden situation. We'll see what Atlanta looks like. I think they're going to be better with Quinn Snyder now, in charge there. And I think, there's a couple teams in the East that I think are just going to take a jump from what they were. I think Indiana's going to be better. I think Toronto will be solid this year. I thought they would have been last year, and it was a surprise. I think Orlando is going to be a team that's going to win some games. So I think, it's hard. I think they're better, and I think their record, I picked to be exactly the same. That's sort of the thing, is the team is better, the conference is better.
Right.
But I think in that 3 to 5 range is probably where you find them.
Steve, watching that and final thing on last night, you see Porzingis with that team. Boy, when he hit that bomb 3 in the end of the fourth quarter there, and it was pretty much to put the Celtics ahead. Did you think he would fit in that well? I mean, he looked spectacular last night with Tatum and Brown.
Yeah, one thing, I really liked him in Washington. I thought he really was playing the best I've seen him play since, maybe his rookie year. And maybe beyond that, he's gotten stronger. But he really, two things. I think mentally he's accepted a role there that he's secondary to those guys. And I think he's going to flourish in that. He doesn't have the pressure to kind of carry the team, although he kind of did at times yesterday.
Definitely.
and I think physically he looks great. He looked mobile. He just keeps getting stronger every year. He really has done a good job working on his body. But I think with that, again, it was mobility. Like if you look at that play where he blocked Barrett, he had 4 block shots yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the ones where Barrett was kind of driving by him on the left side, and he kept up with him step for step and just smothered the shot.
And then stared him down.
I think he's going to have a very good year this year. And look, I know some Knicks fans have a thing, and for some reason they still boo him. He's a good guy, and I think if anything, history has proven him right.
Yeah.
That some of the concerns he had about the front office, early in his career with Phil Jackson and Fizdale and the kind of coaching carousel, the way that Carmelo was treated, he wanted some assurances, and they weren't giving them to him.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of, I know they like to say that he demanded a trade, and I don't know how you supposedly demand a trade, and within an hour, they've got a massive package put together. So I feel like, as I've heard all around the league, that was sort of a smear job on the way out the door, and it's worked because for years and years and years, this kid has taken the brunt of the blame. When I think any Knicks fan who looks at what the organization was like at that time would understand why he wanted to see that things were going to be done more functionally.
No doubt about it.
That's a great point.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, a smear job from Mr. Dolan and the Knicks organization is not a shocker to me. We're hanging out with our guy, Steve Popper. He covers the New York Knicks and the NBA for Newsday. You can read all of his coverage at newsday.com. Certainly follow him at Steve Popper, and every once in a while, nice enough to join us here on The Drive.
All right, Steve, as we move forward, as you mentioned, 1 down and 81 to go in the regular season, one of the prime performers from yesterday being RJ Barrett. It feels, at least on this end, that Barrett's continued slow and steady, I guess you could call it progress, is a huge part of what the Knicks want to accomplish this season. Do you expect to see even more growth from this guy as he enters into a very important year in his career?
I do, and I think the playoffs last year, not only his performance, but just being a part of that, that learning and playing against the Heat and the Cavs and pressure every day, and sort of, the teachings that you have to kind of take in, learning your opponent, and then follow that with a very good performance in the FIBA World Cup with Team Canada. I think all of that helped him. If you look back last summer, he didn't do scrimmaging, contact drills when he was waiting for the extension. So he kind of put himself in a weird way behind the 8 ball a little bit at the start of the season. But I thought he got better as the season went on and sort of learned his role being the third guy there behind Brunson and Randall. To me, it's just amazing that people want to move on from him. And at times the organization he's 23 years old. Yeah. It's hard to believe because he's been here so long now. But he's 23 years old. He's not even nearly into the years of the prime part of his career, and I think he's gotten better and better. And he's in the meantime been a 20-point-a-game scorer. Who is not an elite defender, but a pretty good one. Who I think is learning and getting better. I think to me, it's almost unnoticed how he's grown under Thibodeau, and I think having him and Quentin Grimes as 23-year-old starters on a pretty competitive team, is a good sign for what they're building here in New York.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, last night, if he hit that 3 responding to Porzingis, that place would have I think the roof would have fallen off that place. That would have gone absolutely nuts. The thing that I was impressed, you mentioned it, his defense, it's gotten better. He was engaged last night. The problem I have with RJ Barrett, or did have in the past, he needs to be engaged each and every night, and especially against a team like the Celtics.
Yeah, and like I say, he's not an elite defender, but I think having Grimes next to him is a huge help because Grimes takes that toughest assignment every game. And I think it's going to help having Dante DiVincenzo, who is also a very, very good perimeter defender. Yeah. So it's going to sort of put him in a secondary role defensively, whether he's with the first or second unit. I think that's a help for him. There were times yesterday where he did have to guard Tatum, and that's a challenge. But I just think I think he's growing slowly, maybe not what people want to see, but I think there's now an argument to be made that all of us thinking that was a 2-player draft, that if you look at the injury history of Zion Williamson and the off-court troubles of John Morant, and I can't stress this enough. I tell people all the time, it's not easy to play in New York. It's not everybody can do that. Come in as an 18-year-old and be part of some of the dysfunction they had here before,
definitely,
and survive it and flourish. And guys like RJ Barrett, they don't come along. You better be sure when you move him for somebody else that you're not getting somebody's headache, or a guy who can't handle the pressure, can't handle the criticism, can't handle the booing, because RJ Barrett has taken it. He's gotten it just like Julius Randle has.
Yep.
From the crowd at the Garden, and nothing deters him. I'm telling you, if you see him before and after games, he is never too high, never too low. Scores 40, and he doesn't seem different than when he scores 5. And I think that's a huge part of what you have to be in New York.
Yeah, and you definitely do, and you mentioned it. All right, so if you're going to move him, the rumor mill going all over the place. Joel Embiid, could he be coming to the New York Knicks? Would they be willing to give up a package that would include RJ Barrett? What do you know about this? Is there any reality, and what do you think about it?
There is no reality.
Okay.
That's my understanding, talking to people at the organization.
Good.
I think this was thrown out there as I'm sure somebody in Philly said, Keith Pompey, who's a very good reporter, I'm sure somebody said, if we have to break this thing up, the Knicks would give us a package, starting with, these guys. I don't think they've ever engaged in that actual discussion, because Embiid has not asked for a trade and the Sixers have not offered one. And until they do, he's going to be a part of Philly. They are not looking to move on from him. Look, the reality is, as Julius Randle said to a couple of us yesterday, this is New York, you're going to be in every trade rumor. People like to put New York in there, whether it's a free agent or a trade. They want to put New York in there as a place to be. And I think New York has become a little bit of a destination for players. And there are, a lot of connections with Embiid, former client of Leon Rose.
Yeah.
I think, to me, look, we're gonna keep hearing this until they actually pull the trigger on one of these, and maybe we'll be hearing it for the next one. Then the intent of this organization is to make a big swing. I think they know where they're at now, that they're a second tier team right now, that they don't, they're not a championship team.
Right.
But I think that they're going to keep chasing that, building assets. And it's not just acquiring draft picks. It's making guys like RJ Barrett better and making Quentin Grimes better and, kind of maximizing these pieces you have. One thing the Knicks have, if you look at their roster, up and down their roster, they don't have any overpaid guys, other than, if you want to say,
that's
Evan
true.
Fournier, and that's an expiring contract that they haven't moved for a reason. It has value in a trade. So I think, to me, and you actually look at what they did with Emmanuel quickly. Look, I think they'd love to, keep Emmanuel right now the way he's playing, the way he played last season. But he topped out his value for them. But his value outside the organization and to the Knicks is different. He's a sixth man. He'll never be a starter here. And if he wants to be paid as one, the Knicks are not the place to do it. By not giving him an extension now, they keep open the ability to deal him if they want to make a deal for a star this season. If Embiid comes available, if Karl Anthony Towns, if anybody, Donovan Mitchell, something goes sour in Cleveland, we know he loves New York.
Yeah.
I think these are all possibilities, and they're going to be in the chase on all these names. And quickly is right now an asset that is well priced and is tradable. If you do the extension, that poison pill attachment in the CBA happens, and he's worth half coming back of what you're sending out. So it's very tough to make a deal if you do that. just as it would have been with Barrett last season, at the trade deadline. So I think that's an issue here, and I think they're doing things the right way. They're kind of planning. Everything is to make that move, just waiting for the right one and the right deal. And I think the Donovan Mitchell chase last year kind of shows you they're not going to overpay. They're going to try and keep building what they have. And as much as they would have loved to have Donovan, and as much as he'd love to be here, they weren't going to go over what they felt was a fair deal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And hopefully the Knicks are in good hands. They keep playing like they did last night. It will be fun. He's our guy, Steve Popper. He covers the New York Knicks for Newsday. Read all of his coverage at newsday.com. Certainly follow him for up-to-the-minute Knicks and NBA news at Steve Popper. And every once in a while, nice enough to join us here on The Drive. Steve, safe travels to Atlanta, and we'll talk to you in a few weeks. And hopefully the Knicks are humming.
Yeah, we'll see. I think, like I said, I think they're on the right track, and I wouldn't get discouraged by what you saw on opening night. I think they know it's a tough, 2-3 weeks to start the season. I was talking to Isaiah Hartenstein last night, and he brought up that this is how they want to start. They want to be mentally focused and have a test like this. It's this 3-game road trip, 2 sets of back-to-backs in the first 5 games, then at Milwaukee, home for a couple of games, and back on the road for 5 more. So this is a tough start to the season, but I think they kind of think this is how they want to get themselves on track and moving.